Gen X grew up on late-night warnings.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Scared, straight.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
And were inspired by movies that defined a generation.
We were all pretty bizarre. Some of us are just better at hiding it, that's all.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I feel the need for speed.
We found our attitude in comedy.
I'm Gumby, damn it.
You see that sign?
No shirt, no shoes, no ties.
Right. Learn it. Know it. Live it.
And our identity in pop culture.
I want my MTV!
I want my MTV.
I want my MTV.
Who talking about, Willis?
Keep your feet in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.
This is Gen X Men with Bill Rowland and Gary Dollarhide.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
All right, welcome in, everyone. Once again, I am Bill Rowland here. That is Gary Dollarhide there. And this is episode 21 of the Gen X podcast. Yes, pop a bottle, open up a can of your favorite beverage, whatever it may be, as we are, as it says below, buy us a drink. This is episode 21. We're legal now. It's going to be all about Gen X and your first alcohol experiences and everything else when we were younger. It's a lot different, I would imagine, than the stories of maybe the kids today. I don't have kids, so I can't speak to that, but it sure does seem that way. We'll get into some fake IDs. We'll get into all sorts of the random beverages that you may not have remembered or have heard mentioned in years. And if you're like Gary and I before the show, you're going to hear someone go, oh, no, not that, because the experience you had with it was just so tragic. So anyway, things there in Central Maine before we get things started with the booze talk.
We're in a warming trend. It is above 30 today. So a lot of our snow mounds are starting to melt. So we're it's early, but you could almost call it mud season because there's so much water everywhere right now. So, But getting better. I'll take 30 plus degrees anytime versus what we've been through there for a while.
It was in the 50s here. So yeah, the snow melt is definitely on. And I think next week it's going to be all in the 50s as well. So it will be mud season for us for a couple of weeks here coming up. So anyway, enough of the weather talk. Let's dive right into it. Okay. The first thing, for most people in Gen X, I would imagine it was either an older brother or sister or somebody's older brother or sister of, friend of your older brother or sister that probably introduced it. Now, you may have it different because you were the oldest child. I was the youngest. So my experience may be a little bit different. Now, we also have to give the background on this. I grew up with no alcohol in my house whatsoever. My parents did not drink. Now, my dad drank way too much. He ended up having to quit because of things we won't necessarily get into, but he quit drinking before I was even born. So there was that kind of, specter hanging over the house as well. But I never thought anything of it as far as like, we just didn't have alcohol in the house. What was your house like as far as that goes?
So oddly, very much like yours, coming from strong Southern Baptist people, there was no alcohol in the house. However, there was, hidden away in a drawer, a jar. Because my grandfather and his brothers were known to make their own back in the day.
Beautiful.
So there was a jar. But again, for my father, it was strictly medicinal. He would mix it and use it as cough medicine. So so other than that, I mean, I remember they went to Hawaii in '84, got a bottle of champagne, and that bottle is probably still sealed somewhere in their house. My parents were just not drinkers. Yeah. So for me, it wasn't the older brother sibling. It was because I went to work at a grocery store. So that's how it all, first taste test for me was at a grocery store.
That's pretty amazing. That was it like one of the older clerks there? Like, hey man, Gary, come here. You want some of this? Like, how did it work? How did that work out?
Quite simply. So it was let's just call it what it was. It was the country grocery store, maybe the size of a larger 7-Eleven, a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And usually working nights, weekends, you'd be down to the cashier, who was also a manager, and then one or two of us bag boys running everything else. So we're alone in the store, and there's a beer cooler, and there were some older bag boys there who said, "Oh yeah," because what inevitably happens is a 6-pack gets broken up, can gets dented, whatever. Everything gets set to the side.
I was going to say, how do they? I mean, I'm sure they weren't just going back to the beer cooler and be like, "I'm going to crank one off here." I mean, like, that's not going on, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. So there was always excess, right? There's always a random bottle, whatever. And for others, I knew they drank heavily. For me, it was, hey, take a hit and go, that's all right. Not the greatest, but yeah. The early on, well, let's just say the beer selection at this store was not great, even for back then, right? It was Milwaukee's best, the cheapest stuff. So you take a sip and go, so
like that's not it.
That's not it.
Yeah.
But that was my first experience, how I got access to it. And then obviously it was also about the same time where, I'm a junior in high school. There's older so it would start to flow into parties and such.
Sure.
But the truth of the first experiment was being, a 15-year-old bag boy at this little grocery store and taking a couple hits off the excess alcohol out and back.
Nice.
So,
now, do your parents know this story?
Well, they will now if they watch the show. So otherwise they didn't know. Never had that conversation. Yep.
All right.
They knew when I went off to college that it was going to happen. They just accepted that. So
right.
But they didn't know how soon.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was, I can remember, like, again, my parents didn't drink, but we would go to like friends of theirs and they would play cards. I think they played pinochle or euchre. It wasn't anything that I knew how to play. So they would play cards, and then these friends of theirs had older daughters that would then watch my sister and I. So like basically got shoved off. But I can remember like the other adults drinking, and I can remember not liking the smell of beer at all. Like, it was just gross to me. And it wasn't like, people be like, "Oh yeah, my dad would come home and I would smell." It wasn't that, because my parents didn't drink. It was just being there. And they would drink like Miller High Life and not Bud Light, like regular Budweiser, which had a really strong odor to it, especially when you're a little kid. And I just remember not liking the smell of it. Now, mine was about probably the same age that you were. I think I was a freshman in high school, though. And mine was not beer the first time around. Mine was actually rum and Coke. And and I still to this day look back and go, how dumb, and I mean dumb, were we to do this? So I ripped up my knee when I was 13 in 8th grade. So I couldn't play the doctor's time, no football, no wrestling, no any of that stuff. So I had to find stuff to do before baseball season in the spring. So my sister was in the drama department, basically. She did all the acting stuff. And when they needed younger kids, they would get the younger siblings to come do stuff. So I got to meet all of her older friends when I was, 6th grade, 7th grade, and having to play like a little kid in whatever play it was. So by the time I got to high school in the fall, I went and was hanging out. And I'm like, okay, I didn't necessarily want to do any acting, but I was like, I'll do sets. I like, painting. We did the lights, all that stuff. Well, one of the guys there, and I won't name him because I don't want that out there. But anyway, he was a junior at this point and was like one of their main tech guys. He did some acting as well, but he was one of the guys that did the lighting and, the sets and everything. So I'm hanging out with him, and to do the lights, you had to go up above on this catwalk to adjust the above lights, right? And you'd have to strap in. They had the little safety thing, so you'd clip in, as they called it. So you'd have a thing around your waist that then clipped to the bars that ran across up by the lights. So when they're doing what they call blocking, which is they're not actually performing the play or rehearsing, they're just holding the script and it says, Joe Blow goes left stage or whatever. So they're blocking, say, okay, you have to walk here. That's going to happen next. Well, while they're doing that, that's when we're doing the lighting. Like we're like, okay, so we need to make sure that this part of the stage is lit. This needs to be that, whatever it is. Oh, we need to make sure we have a spotlight on the phone for when it rings or whatever. Right. But you're sitting there and it might be 20, 30 minutes. And they'll be like, hey, can you get a blue gel on this? We need this to look like it's night or, that kind of stuff. You go and you walk over and go, all right, number 17, here's the gel box and drop the gel in. So you're literally sitting there doing nothing, just kind of hanging out. If you get real squirrely, you sit on the edge and you dangle your feet. I mean, there's still bars over there. You're not going to fall at all. Or I would sit and try to do my homework. Well, this guy about 2 or 3 weeks into this is like, hey man, do you want a drink? And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't bring, because we would bring snacks there, everything. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't bring my Cokes up. They're down. I was like, all my stuff is down on the stage. I said, I really don't want to go down the ladder. And he's like, no, I got you. So he just hands me what literally looked like this with the out of the top. And I'm like, you didn't drink out of this, did you? He goes, no, I poured it out. He goes, it's fine. I was like, all right. So I took a sip and I was like, that tastes weird. I was like, are you joking with me? Like, what is it? Is this like a flat? Like, what is this? And he just started laughing. He goes, oh, there's rum in there. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, he goes, you got to pass the time somehow. And I was like, okay. So I took a couple more sips. I'm like, it's not good, but it's not bad. I'm like, it's all right. So for the next month and a half, I'd have a shot of rum every single day poured inside the 16-ounce Coke bottle. And we'd sit up there and that was my first experiment or taste of alcohol, was this guy bring every day. And I'm like, where are you hiding this? I finally asked him. He goes, nobody. He's like, who's checking our stuff? He had a flask. His older brother was in college and it brought him a flask. And so he would bring Bacardi rum and he'd pour out a little bit or drink a couple of sips. If it was mine, he'd pour it out into a cup and then drop the shot in and shake it up and hand it to me. And I mean, I'm sure it wasn't enough to even get me buzzed, because it's one shot with 16 ounces or whatever. But that was the first time I'd ever had it. And I'll tell you what, nothing to do with alcohol. Drama kids get made fun of all the time. And I get it, because some of them are really, really strange. And I understand that. But this is the untold secret that nobody really mentions at all. You see so many teenage boobs when you're a freshman, when you're in high school doing the plays backstage, because at least where we were, if there was a costume change, you didn't have time to run to the back. You had to change there behind the curtain backstage, and you had 20, 30 seconds to get out. So there was no being modest about stuff. So, I mean, there were plenty of high school girls that I knew that saw me strip down to my underwear and change real quick. But that also meant that I got to see the same thing from them. So fair is fair. And so, yeah, there was more than one occasion where you'd be in the middle of something, you look over and somebody's bra had fallen off or whatever. You'd be like, all right, I got to turn this way so Sally doesn't think I'm staring at her or whatever it is. But that was the best part about it, is being able to hang out there and girls that would never in a million years let you see them, with just a bra on, didn't have a choice. And they were fine with it because they're like, this is just what we got to do. But if you were at a party and you asked them to do that, they'd have slapped you across your face. It was tremendous.
So over the course of your story, it started with, wow, this is the beginning of a good after school special where we need to talk about things, right? Older boy handing you alcohol.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the only thing missing there is the white van. But then it turns into young people seeing each other naked. And now we're back into those old 80s sex comedy movies. Like, there's your foundation backstage. You know, that's the title.
Dude, it is exactly like that. But yeah, I mean, that was the thing. It could have gone really bad. Like with having, like, if I like suddenly developed a taste for Bacardi rum really bad, I could have been like, give me some more. I mean, but I was like, again, you're up there and you realize it's a dangerous thing because you're clipped in. So even at 14, you have a sense of, man, you can't screw around when you're up here because people can get hurt. Like I can even remember, like, you drop one of the gels. They were in like metal cases, and then it's like this little cellophane, you know, like blue or whatever to change the lights. Even if you try to put that into a light, and you have to reach out and put it in the front of the light. If you drop it and it went down on the, I mean, I've seen like that stuff like gouge the stage. You're like, man, that could really, like, you understand, like, you could really hurt people from up here if you were screwing around. So I think that's why we were like, okay, well, we can't get drunk, but there's no reason why we can't have I mean, like, it's fine. It's like, it's no big deal. After a while, you're just like, so what? And then cast parties. I mean, I didn't really drink at those because I had to go home, and I was scared to death of my parents knowing any of this stuff. So I chewed gum a ton when I would come home from theater practice because I was like, I bet they can smell the rum. There wasn't enough rum in there to do anything, but you're still worried about that kind of stuff. So I chewed gum constantly around my house. So
and the same thing for me, for us at the store. It wasn't about getting drunk. I just remember is when, you know, again, I was 15, so my parents had to drive me to and from work. I think he was a high school senior. He was 18, right? So he was a little bit in deeper. He goes, have you ever had any alcohol? And I'm like, no. He goes, well, here's your chance. Try something. Figure out his point was, I don't know, figure out what you like, don't like, because it's all right there.
Right.
You know, and so it was like, oh, well, I'll take a sip and take a sip of that. Oh, not bad, right? Because we were still at work and you didn't want to get tanked. Still had to do stuff. Didn't want to get tanked. Didn't want the manager to figure it out. Like you said, worry about smelling. And then, you know, can my parents smell it, etc. So that was more the experimental phase, which I will say helped me because not long after that, when you're 16 and you're really getting out on your own, and we're talking the farm parties and everything that went on, the alcohol abounded. So you kind of knew, you didn't have this, oh my God, I'm going to try it, right? It kind of took the mystique away from it because I'd already had some and kind of figured out what I liked, didn't like. And so being now in these new environments where much more older kids and there was alcohol, it was just, okay. You know, it's sort of like you said, the parties is like, I'm not getting drunk. I'm okay. And, you know, there's no peer pressure unlike what they do say on the after school movies, but it was just already new. You know, the gates didn't open up till we got to college at George Mason. So, that's a whole secondary story we'll get into here shortly. But so it was helpful because, again, like your parents, mine didn't drink. I had no idea. You got to have that initial introduction somewhere. Right. So to me, it was like, oh, is it work? Here's a little bit of a sippage. You weren't trying to get people to buy it for you. It was safe. So
I never in high school had to have somebody buy alcohol for me. Somebody else always had it. I mean, it was just, I mean, whether it was older brothers or whatever. I mean, my sister was old enough that when they changed the laws in DC, when it went from 18 to 21, she by a week was grandfathered in. So she would still be able to go at 18, but she wasn't a big drinker. And I certainly wasn't going to ask her to go buy me anything because I figured she'd rat me out to my parents. So I was like, I can't trust her on any level to do this.
She'll hold it against me.
So I was like, I'm not going to ask her. But the other thing that we used to do in high school, and again, just dumb, was going to a football game or even to a basketball game. You'd go to 7-Eleven, you'd get yourself either an orange Slurpee, and then you'd add vodka to it, or you'd get the cola Slurpee, because those were the two flavors that they generally was. Cola was always there, and every once in a while they'd have orange, and then you'd add the rum to the Coca-Cola Slurpee. We used to do that all the time, and then go into the games and do stuff. And There's a couple kids that were dumb and got caught because instead of just mixing it in your car, they tried to bring it in and continue to mix it. Well, how dumb are you to stand in the middle of a gym as there's a basketball game going on, and all of a sudden you're like
pouring.
Just get a couple more drops in there. Like, it was just dumb. I mean, so they got caught, and you'd be like, all right, see you later. But yeah, teachers would ask us all. I mean, teachers knew. We thought we were pulling something over on. They knew. They just didn't care because they had more important things to worry about, like their own life. But yeah, we would go in, and they'd be like, it's like basketball season. So you're walking January, you're walking to the gym, and there's 5 of you carrying Slurpees, and they're like, guys, it's awful cold outside to be doing Slurpees, isn't it? We're like, yeah, but it's warm in the gym. So we're just like, like
they taste good.
Yeah, they knew. Yeah, we just want the sugar rush. It was like, no, we're not dumb, And then, of course, once you got a couple of guys get caught, you had to stop doing. Then you're like, well, now they're going to check everybody. You can't do the Slurpee trick anymore because these knuckleheads ruined it for us. So then you have to come up with something else. But that was the main thing for football games and basketball games. You just use the Slurpee and pour the alcohol in there. I don't recommend it. It doesn't taste great if you don't have the right mix. And when you're 16, 17 years old, you don't know what the right mix is. And so usually this stuff was way too strong alcohol-wise, or there wasn't enough. And you're just like, I really didn't want to have this big giant Slurpee and just taste Slurpee. This sucks. So you had to get good at it, and it was hard.
I remember the older kids, and we talked about this earlier. Matilda Bay was a wine cooler in the late 80s. And it came in a box with a bladder on the inside.
Like boxed wine, basically.
Like boxed wine, right? So you could open the box, pull the bladder. And that is what got taken into games at the high school level because you just put it in your backpack. And like you said, no one was checking anything. So
not like now.
They would take the bladder in, and you could carry large volumes in because there'd be 4 or 5 people carrying it in their backpacks, and no one's paying attention to the backpacks. And then with the easy pour spout, they could just pour it off real quick, like set it between their legs, hide behind people. And that is the way I saw it most of the time. There may have been people with a little bottle of nips, etc., but that seemed to be a trend at one point, was the Matilda Bay drink bladders brought into the backpacks.
See, I don't remember Matilda Bay at all. That never crossed my radar at all. I do remember, of course, the other wine coolers like Bartles and James and California coolers. We had those, and they were okay. They were tasty. Like if you're at a party, whatever. This is more in college, but if you had a party, you would always make sure that you had to have wine coolers.
For the ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't necessarily drink from the keg beer. So you'd have a cooler of wine coolers off to the side. And I had more than one of those in my time, but they weren't great unless you got like strawberry flavored or something and it masked. I'm not a wine drinker even now. I don't like the taste of wine. I think it's gross. But yeah, I mean, unless you got like a good flavored one, unlike Zima, but that wasn't a wine cooler. That was a
malt beverage mix or something.
Gross. I still remember Zima being nasty. Some people loved it back then. I was like, this stuff is gross. I don't know. Maybe it's because my first experiences were with hard liquors like rum and whiskey and, Jack and Cokes and stuff like that. And, the vodka Slurpees, which is basically just a frozen screwdriver is what it is. I never really took a taste. I mean, I drank a lot of beer, but it was more to get the buzz than it was like, oh, this is a really tasty beverage. Like
you were a connoisseur.
I never understood.
Your tasting notes in a notebook somewhere.
Bud Light. My God, it's not that great. It's fine for what it is. But I never got into that. Never did.
So I'm the same way. I always, when my sons ask me or other friends, it's like the taste of alcohol, after that college spree was just never a big thing to me. Like I didn't go, I need something refreshing. give me a beer. Like it was really rare, random, even to this day, until just because 3 weeks ago, I just know because I said it's time for that to go. I had a can of Sam Adams winter lager that is floated around for 2 years.
Right.
Just sitting in the fridge. I just alcohol. It's always had an odd taste to me. You know, certain mixed drinks are good at certain times, but just your random beer, wine, definitely. I agree with you on that. I just don't have a taste for it. It doesn't make me go, wow, that's fantastic. And maybe it's something you do develop, or maybe it's genetic. I don't know, but it just never for me did it ever cross the border into this needs to be an everyday thing or a weekly thing.
Yeah, no, I don't get the people that can sit there. And I mean, look, I was in Chicago recently with George Mason, met up with another Mason alum up there, and he used to work in Chicago, so we had this local bar that he liked to go to. So we went there, and I had a couple of beers, but it wasn't like, oh, I cannot wait to get out.
Right.
And I got to it, and I'm like, all right, what do they have on tap? And looked, and they had I think Yingling. So I had a couple of Yinglings, and it was fine. Like I'm not against it, but it's not like I'm not like, oh, I got to pick up a 6-pack while I'm at the store. Like you, a few years ago, I bought a 6-pack of, I think it was Yingling actually for my birthday. And Carrie and I were just gonna, cook dinner, and I was like, okay, well, I'll get this. I'll have a beer. And those other 4, I'm not kidding you, I was living in an apartment in Alexandria, right there off Van Doren Street, right where the old Landmark Mall used to be.
Yeah,
those 4 beers went from there to the next place where I lived, the condo in McLean. And then I stayed in the same condo complex. The woman that owned the condo that I was renting, unfortunately, passed away. So they were selling it. And I was fortunate enough to find another one to rent in the same place. It went there with me. So now we're going on year 3 of these things. And I finally popped one open. I forget why. The morning show that I was producing, we were working from home. And I don't remember why we decided to drink on the show the one day. And so I was like, yeah, I have a beer. So I pulled it out, popped it open, took like 2 sips, set it off to the side. This is like 6 a.m. And then dumped the rest of that out afterwards because I'm like, I don't want this now. When the show was done at 9, I'm like, I'm not drinking this now. And then I think those 3 went with me from McLean out before Karen and I bought the house here, out to her place. And I think finally one of her sons was home, visiting, and he took them for his friend. I'm like, you can have them. They're 4 years old now at this point, but good luck to you. And I don't know. But yeah, for 3 years, they just sat in my fridge. Even now, I don't even know if there's any beer in the house right now. I know out in the garage, little tiny freezer or refrigerator, I have a bottle of Bullet bourbon that's sitting in the little freezer thing in the bottom. That's 5 years old now because one of my buddies gifted me that when I finished chemo, and we had a big kind of, hey, I'm done with chemo party. And he brought me a bottle of Bullet, and it still hasn't been finished. So that tells you 5 years, and I haven't finished off that bottle yet. It tells you how often I drink. So,
yeah. I mean, for my heritage and everything, I do have a jar of Old Smoky apple pie in the fridge.
That's awesome.
But that thing will probably last me 10 or 15 years because it'll be like, let me pour a shot of that, sip on it, and then I'm done. So if you imagine shots and then in a mason jar, it's going to last me a while because it's just not part of my norm. But sometimes it's like, hey, I need a little nightcap. Let's have a little sip of that and call it a day.
Yeah.
So, but I know with my son, I'm fairly confident. I don't think he's lying. He hasn't had alcohol, but I can sense he has no desire.
Right.
And then if you go with my stepkids, it's not really part of their world either. So, I don't know if it's a generational change for them.
It seems like that.
They don't I know alcohol was around them growing up, so it's not part of their thing. And I don't hear the stories from other people our age with kids about like, oh, my kid got torched and had to go pick. I don't hear that, so I don't know if it's a change. But I will say what is definitely different, especially here in the state of Maine where it's legal, is the use of cannabis as an alternative. So unfortunately, they get involved in that earlier here.
Yeah, and if you see some of the studies that just came out, and again, you're adults, do whatever you want. I'm not telling you how to live your life. I don't care. I've never had weed, never done weed, never wanted to. It's fine. I don't care if you do it. It's your life. Same thing with cigarettes. I don't smoke cigarettes either. If you want to do it, it's your life. Go ahead. But some of the stuff that just came out about weed is really scary as far as how dangerous it can be. So, I mean, it's fine. If you're an adult, you want to do it, great. But don't think if your 15-year-old, 14-year-old kid is smoking weed, you're like, well, it's better than drinking beer. It may not be. I mean, it may not be. You probably know better than I do. Being an EMT, you've probably seen some of the psychotic breaks that you can have, or they're telling you how just horrible it is for your lungs now too. And I think, honestly, the weed's different. It's way different than when we were growing up, and even before that for our parents, if they ever did it. I don't think my parents ever did. I just never had that was another thing. I never had the desire to do it. I saw guys in my fraternity that would get high, and I would just look at them and be like, I don't want to be that way. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be just like sitting there on the couch, like, literally like just vegging out. I was like, I don't, it held no appeal to me. I guess that's what I'm saying. If you want to do it, great. I will have at it.
I will fully admit my first try of marijuana was not till after college.
There you go.
So, and it was just like, I guess it's kind of similar like the alcohol. I guess at some point we should just try this and see. And already not being a smoker, it was like, not for me, thanks.
Right.
So,
I never liked the smell. Like, you go to concerts. I mean, especially I was going to Jimmy Buffett concerts when I was in high school. So, I mean, you didn't need to smoke it. You could just get the contact high. I've had plenty of those, and you're just like, your head hurts. And I'm just like, I don't like this. I would never smoke because I don't like the feeling of the contact high from it. So, let me run down. I got a couple. I got a list here. Let me run down a couple of things. I want you to give me your impression of these. Do you remember Boone's Farm wine?
Oh yeah, that was a staple back in the day. So again, much like some of the other ones, it's a flavored wine that made it taste a little bit better than just your standard wines. And I think that's why it was cheap and people loved it. So, and
one of our favorite college bands had a song called Boone's Farm Wine. Emmett Swimming. Do you remember them? They had that song. How about Everclear? Did you ever have Everclear?
Oh yes. That was the bathtub parties at a certain point in my life. You could but again, you mixed it because it tasted so bad on its own. But however, it was a kicker doing what it wants to do in terms of getting you drunk. So,
well, and it was high octane alcohol too. It wasn't your Bacardi rum that's like 20% or whatever it is. I mean, Everclear was legit, and to the point that I think they stopped selling it in a lot of states. I don't know that you can get it. Yeah.
So I don't think you. I mean, I think if I remember right, they quit selling Everclear as it was, and you had to meet certain specifications on alcohol content, and they kind of backed it down because that stuff was so potent that they said maybe not a good idea to have out there.
Yeah. We did the jungle juice, like you said, the bathtub parties where you'd mix it and whatever, and we did the jungle juice parties. It'd be like in a garbage bag in a trash can, and you'd literally just hold the bottles and into the trash can, and then the next couple of things, and you mix it all together, and it was gross. And people just take a cup and dip it in, and you go on your merry way. I mean, again, I think of like the stuff today of especially post COVID now, with people being really worried about germs and stuff. All the stuff we did, you'd pass a bottle around, nobody would think twice about drinking after each other. A lot of times, no one cared. Now, if you did that, I mean, at the most, if it got passed to you, you might take your shirt and do this.
Wipe
And
it.
even then, people are like, oh, you think I got some kind of disease? What are you wiping the bottle? You're like, yeah, you might actually. I don't know. But yeah, people get offended if you like wipe the top of the bottle off before you would sip it and pass it on. It was strange.
The one time that I remember the bottle being it was insane, was sophomore year.
Okay.
My roommate Jimmy and I decided to have a party, and we went to my Uncle Ralph. And God rest his soul.
Yes.
The background is Uncle Ralph was always the black sheep hellraiser of the family, but he lived in Northern Virginia.
I loved your uncle. He was great.
And he had been divorced a couple years. So we said, hey, can we have a party at your house? And he thought about it.
In Annandale, right?
In Annandale. And he said, yeah, why not? And he said, but I'm not going to be here because I don't want to get in trouble if trouble happens. So I remember we went and set up his house. We removed the brick. We just made it party proof almost.
Right.
And then we said, well, here's the thing, Ralph. We need you to get us the alcohol, because he didn't contemplate that, these kids who just want to have a party are 19 years old, right? They're 18, 19 years old. And he was like, oh, all right. Well, let's go over here and get you something. So we gave him a list of what we thought, and what came out there was not. He goes, oh, no. If you're having a party, this is what you need. And he started showing us in the box and the bottles and the trunk, you need this. And so, it was huge. We had a shuttle service to get people in because it was a small neighborhood.
Right.
I mean, it was just out of control. And like you said, bottles were being passed. That's how bad it got. And I remember people trying to make more alcohol and went and found these bottles in his downstairs refrigerator and were just dumping it in.
Oh,
those were water bottles. No, those were water bottles. That was what was so funny. People are like, oh, this is great. And the only reason we knew that is because he came home midway and said, I just need to check on things. And next thing I know, he's there for the rest of it, having a good time. And talking about after school special, again, God bless him. He really took a shining to a friend of mine. He goes, oh, you think she'd go out with an older man? I'm like, probably not, Ralph, but I will ask. So, but yeah, people were just passing bottles and cans, and it just kind of went off the edge there. And today, I don't, like you said, post COVID and how people are today, be like, oh, no, I'm not putting my mouth on that. But.
Yeah. But you did, and you survived, and it was no big deal. I shared a solo cup more than one time with a chick at a party. So,
or just find one. I mean, I know I've done that many times. Like, oh, that one's empty. All right, can you fill me up?
Yeah,
just hand it, right?
Yeah,
it's plastic. It'll be all right.
Nobody was taking a Sharpie and putting their initials on their cup back then. That was not happening. All right. How about Mad Dog?
Mad Dog 2020. Kind of the same thing as Boone's. I mean, it was just a grape wine, very cheap. And we know you could always, I remember the one trick was some of the homeless guys, because they loved it. You'd be like, hey, go buy me a bottle and get you a bottle. And that was the trade-off to get it. So you would be able to get the bottle back from him.
Right. But
it's good stuff. It's dangerous.
We had a kid in high school that was trying to go and get booze like that. And so he's like, I'll just find, one of the guys hanging around outside the ABC store, and I'll get him to buy it for us. And we're like, all right, good luck. And so he went off and he came back and he didn't have anything. And we're like, well, I thought you were going to was there nobody there? And he goes, no, the guy wouldn't give it back to me. Gave him the money to buy like 2 bottles, and the guy walked out, and our buddy was like, can I get my bottle? He's like, get away. I don't know what you're talking about, kid. Get away from me. Like, making a big scene. He's like, I'm not buying you any booze. You kids are always, and I was like, oh my God, he totally trolled you. That's amazing. So good.
Well, I remember more than a few times people were like, no, get away from me. Like if you stood outside and said, hey, can you get it? Nope, get away. Nope, exactly. No part of this.
Yeah, because the cops would get kids to do that sometimes. Yeah. And you don't want to get, it was like, no way. Did you ever buy anybody alcohol? I never did.
Nope,
I
never would
but
because of that. Because I was afraid of getting tagged for it. Absolutely.
If I knew, like, if it was somebody's younger brother or something, if it was like, okay, I'll buy it and I'll bring it to you, but never, ever outside the store. No chance I was ever going to do that. Just made no sense. All right, fake IDs. Did you ever have a fake ID?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
For those of you that are younger, you have to understand it was a different ID world back then. Literally, you could.
It was paper.
Mine was West Virginia. And
okay.
It was so easy to copy. A friend of ours at George Mason made them for $20. And it was literally cut and paste, printing on clear overheads to get the state symbols and just packaging the stupid thing. But IDs were so bad, even in Virginia, they were so bad back then. They were easy to just make. And so I had the West Virginia ID at some point for about a year. Yep, it was about a year before I turned 21. Just for more convenience than anything.
To be able to get into bars. Yep.
Yeah, used it multiple times because the guys would go, "Yep, you're good." Because again, it's not this holographic world that we live in. I even remember the Virginia ID was like a picture on one side, but then it was paper on the backside that had your address and everything else. So it was just a different time where you could get away with it. I do remember, and it didn't work out, setting out, going down to Georgetown. We're going to get a fake ID. I'm sure you can just buy one around here somewhere. And that was a day wasted.
Yeah.
But a lot of people give you funny looks when you ask about it. Like, you're asking this in public? What?
Right, hey, why did you say that out loud, dummy? Yeah, exactly. No, the Virginia IDs were, like you said, it had your picture and then the paper information, everything. And they weren't like now. Everything is sealed, obviously, like laminated. Back then, you could take it out. It was like in a plastic pouch, but it had an opening. So you could literally pull it out. I had a friend that he tried doing, and I don't know if it ever worked. I just saw him do it, and I was like, well, good luck. I'm not sure how this is going to work out for you. But he did it to his own ID, which I thought was dumb, because what happens if you needed to actually have it run? So, like, let's say we were born in 1971 was our birthday, right? So he wanted to make it look like he was born in 1968, let's say, whatever it was. So he took like an X-Acto knife and like cut out the numbers, like, on the ID that would replace the numbers in his birth date to make it look like he was a couple years older and be 21. And he just switched them around and then taped. And then he was an art guy, like was doing all this stuff. I'm like, dude, what happens if you have to have like your license, like you get a speeding ticket or something and have to go to court? Now you've got a license that isn't valid. Like you've done this to your own license. What are you doing? But that was his thing. I had one, and I didn't have a fake ID. I actually had an actual ID. I took one of my fraternity brothers was a couple years older than me. I took his information. Just basically all you needed back then was like a rental agreement or an electric bill, whatever was in your name, like to prove that you were you. So I took his stuff, went to the DMV. How dumb. How completely dumb is this? Went to the DMV, said, yeah, my name is Chris. I won't give the last name. It's not Chris Jolly for those people. Jolly's younger than me. So another guy, my name is Chris, whatever. Not going to put him out there. I lost my ID. I just need to get another one. And they're like, oh, okay, well, what's your address? Gave him the address. Give him like, okay, go stand over here. Picture taken. And this was the year after they started laminating stuff. So I still have it somewhere in a box. It's my picture. So it's not even, how girls would sometimes try to use their sisters. Or whoever.
Yep, that was the standby. Yep.
Yeah, to show the ID, and it kind of looks like you, but not really. Like, okay, in this light, sure, go ahead. Most girls get turned down for their IDs anyway. But this was my picture, all of his information that all I had to do was memorize, but nobody was going to say anything, because if it looked like you and it's sealed, It was an actual Virginia license. It wasn't some fake job or whatever and it wasn't like, oh, I'm from Kansas. I just go to school here, like that kind of thing. It was legit. No one questioned it ever. And I used it at bars. I used it at the ABC store. I mean, the amount of times I should have been busted for using that is incalculable, but no one ever questioned it. If I find it, I will bring it and I will show it on another episode because there's no way to get caught because it was my picture. So it's like, okay, you're that guy.
Well, and I was going to say, I still have that West Virginia license and I think it's in storage because I kept it because that thing's a trophy. But again, it was true. It was my picture, my name with a West Virginia address. And we just changed the birthday by a year or two just to make me 21. And the way he did it was like we were able to laminate it so it was sealed. So it wasn't like a floating piece of paper like the Virginia license for a little while. And so that's why it worked so well because picture was me, name, birth date, just rattled off. Everything was perfect. And West Virginia being so close to DC, right? Because a couple times I did it just to make sure I had my George Mason ID. So I'd hand both of them. And student West, okay, go on in, and not a problem. But sometimes you didn't need an ID. I remember, and I kept racking my brain. There was a bar we used to go to in Northwest DC up at American University.
Ooh,
and I can't remember the name of it. I keep wanting to say the library, but that doesn't sound right.
There was a bar called the Library, but that wasn't up near AU.
Yeah, so never, ever going in there did they ever ask for ID.
That's amazing.
Just go up and go, hey, I would like a rum and Coke or this. They just, here's your order. And okay.
If you're in there.
Never. Exactly. Right. So that's why we would go there a lot. Because my roommate time, Jimmy's sister was up in that area. And it's like, well, we'll just go I wish I could remember it, but never, ever carded any of us, anytime, nothing. Just, what do you need? Okay, here you go. So
there was
glory of DC.
Yeah, there was a right off of Huntington Avenue. For those of you who grew up in Northern Virginia, you know where like Edison High School is and Telegraph Road and all that. There was a convenience store off Huntington Avenue that I'm not going to say that it was a Korean guy that owned it because I don't know. It was an Asian guy that owned it. He may have been Korean. I don't know, Japanese. He could have been Vietnamese. I don't know. He never carded anybody until one day he must have gotten busted and then started carding people because that's where everybody would go to get their beer. And then somebody went in the one day and grabbed the beer and brought it up and was like getting ready to pay. He goes, no, you guys put that back. You're not old enough. I know you're not old enough. And I was like, uh-oh. This is a problem. So he must have got busted for something. They must have been taking it out, and then he got caught. So I'm sure he probably got fined, and he was livid at the kids because again he just figured, oh well, it's illegal. They're not going to try to buy it if they're not allowed to buy it. But yeah, they would go in there. Friends would go in there all the time, get a 6-pack from the. Again, they said Korean grocery store. I don't know if the guy was Korean, so I don't want to say that he was. But so yeah, that was pretty brutal.
Well, you figure if every young person knew, then somehow the intelligence unit with the Virginia ABC agents knew as well and finally got to him.
Right. That's what I again, and maybe this is why I was probably would have been a horrible step parent. And I was blamed for that a couple times. My ex, her 2 daughters, did not like the fact that I was hip to all of the stuff that they tried. I mean, like, you know, you're just like, yeah, you're not. Quick story. We had the lake house. We're down at the lake house. They had brought a bunch of friends. They were still in high school, and they're dumb because that's what high school kids do. They're drinking in cups. They left them in the basement in the theater room of the lake house while they were down at the dock playing, swimming, playing, whatever. So I walk in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to clean these up because it kind of left a mess because they're high school kids. Right. So I pick the one cup up and immediately I can smell the alcohol. I'm like, all right, Sure. But I was like, I'm not going to be the one to say anything. So I went upstairs and I told their mom, who I was dating at the time, and said, hey, by the way, I'm not saying anything about this, but they have alcohol and they're in high school. You do whatever you want to do about it. So she was pissed, made them come up, and they, boys and girls both, and made them dump their beer out. They're like, dump it. And one kid, like, she's having them do it right there. They're all like lined up, like you would think, like you would see like in a sitcom or something, like pour it out. And most of them were doing it or whatever. And they had bottles of alcohol. And I'm like, oh, you're not throwing that out. I just took it and put it in the closet where my you dump the bad beer out. Well, I'll keep that vodka bottle or whatever. And then the one kid is like sitting there and he's like, trying to do this little thing. He's faking cracking the beer and then just like holding it off to the side. Dude, we can see there's nothing coming out of the can, you moron. So she lit him up. I was like, yep, you deserve it. So I'm sitting there. So we go back upstairs and the kids are out, doing their thing. They're back outside. And the youngest daughter, who was her friends, and they were only like 15, 16 at the time. They were young. And mom goes, is there any more alcohol? And she goes, no, I swear that's all of it. And she goes, okay. She goes, okay, well, you can go hang out with your friends, but you better hope there's not anything left. She walks out, and as soon as she left the room, I went, go look in the attic. And she's like, what do you mean? And we had the upstairs, and there were 2 bedrooms upstairs, and right across from one of the bedrooms was where like the HVAC and everything was. Basically like an attic.
Utility.
So an empty room, utility room, sure. But I called it an attic because it had the beams and everything else. Yeah. It just happened to be on the top floor. I said, I guarantee you, if there's more alcohol, and there is, it will be in that room. I said, they went upstairs to get what they were going to show you was all the alcohol. It took them a while. So they devised a plan and had to separate whatever alcohol they were trying to keep. It is in that attic. I said, I will stake everything that I have that there's more alcohol there. And she goes, why? You don't trust them? I said, they just brought alcohol to the house when you told them prior to coming, no alcohol. No, I don't trust them. And she was like, okay. She was, but you're going to have to apologize when there's, I was like, okay, absolutely. She went upstairs, and 2 minutes later, she comes down holding 2 6-packs. And I just went, I try to tell you, like, this is exactly what I would have done. So, of course, I knew her. So they couldn't stand the fact that they really couldn't pull anything over because we've done all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And maybe some parents would be like, oh, they're just being kids or whatever. I'm like, that's fine. They're just being kids. I didn't want to punish them. I just said, I know where the stuff is. I know what's going on. So
we're dealing with information here.
Yes, exactly.
And like you said, I'm telling you this, you decide what to do with it.
Right. And that was my whole thing. It's like, if you don't want to bust them, leave it up there. But I'm telling you, there's alcohol in that HVAC room across from their bedroom. It took them way too long to bring what was all the booze downstairs. It shouldn't have taken them that long, which means they were hiding it. And they're not going to hide it in the room because they're going to think that you're going to go in there and search the room. You won't search the HVAC room.
Sneaky kids. Mm-hmm. So my question for you, I have mine.
Okay.
And it's not to glorify it. Did you have one outstanding experience that went bad with alcohol? Like something that just sticks in your head of this was the peak of just bad.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I tell this story all the time. You might have been with us for this, or maybe it was the year before. Myrtle Beach.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Go down. Actually, I think this was before. This was before you came down with us that one year to Myrtle Beach. Yep. So I had friends of mine in fraternity that worked at Outback Steakhouse. Mm-hmm. And we were going down every year at the end of the school year. All the fraternities and sororities went to Myrtle Beach for a week. And these guys were telling their boss at Outback that they were headed down for the week. That's why they're not going to be on their shifts and everything else. So their bar manager or whatever, the day before they leave, they're working their last shift before vacation, comes out and hands them 2 bottles of Jägermeister and says, on me, have a good time. So we're driving down to Myrtle Beach and we're talking about it. I'm like, that's amazing. 2 free like Jaeger bombs. This is going to be awesome. So we get down there and it's me and a guy named Lee Baldwin and Chris Jolly was the other one. And I'm pretty sure this was Chris's first year in the fraternity. So anyway, we get down there and we start drinking and we get ripped up off this Jägermeister. And if you've never had Jaeger, it tastes like black licorice. At least it does to me. It's awful. I do
like it. I'll admit that's one of the few I do like. But again, it's sipping, not drinking.
We were shot and giving them to girls for shots and all this other stuff, and woke up the next day and had the worst hangover and throwing up, and just awful. So we all made a pack right then. The empty bottles were there. And I guess Myrtle Beach, if you want to find me for littering now nearly 30 years later, have at it, I guess. I guess it's more than 30 years. We went out on the beach and dug the deepest hole that we could and dropped that Jaeger bottle down into the sand and covered it back up and said, never again. And didn't touch the second bottle and gave it away, I think, to some sorority girls or something. And I have never had Jaeger again. I mean, even the smell of black licorice, I just go, no. I mean, that may have been one of the sickest I've ever been from alcohol, because we were just doing shot after shot after shot and drinking other stuff. I'm sure it wasn't all the Jaeger, but that's what we blamed it on, was the Jaeger. Because when you threw up the next day, it, again, tasted like black licorice, like black death. It was awful. Awful.
So for me, it's tequila. And
I'm not a big tequila guy either, unless it's in a mixed drink. I can't shoot it. Can't do it.
Exactly. So for whatever reason, I knew I was going to meet up with a girl that was a good friend, but I was really into, and her friend later. But I had to go this other thing for the university beforehand. And it was some reception. Don't even remember what for. All I did was eat cheese balls. No protein, cheese balls, just blocks of cheese, right? Pepper jack, just hammered the cheese. That was my dinner. So then I end up with them later, and somehow we ended up with a tequila bottle.
Oof.
And just straight shots of tequila. I guess I was further gone than them, because I remember, because I was hoping, for lack of a better word, I want to make out with you, girl. But I got sick. And so that just ruined the mood, right? But I guess ruined the mood enough that she was mad enough. I woke up she just left me. I woke up the next morning in one of those industrial sized trash cans, not like the room size, but like the commercial 55-gallon drums with my upper body in the trash can. And I had puked all night of tequila and cheese.
Oh,
so it was in my hair. It was in my face. I remember Jim, my roommate, coming in going, "What happened here?" I don't know. It just went bad. That's all I can say. So to this day, much like your Jägermeister, the smell, if I smell tequila, I will start to get sick just from that memory of so long ago of, that bad night with a bottle of tequila and a bunch of cheese. So,
well, we've all been there I mean, it's been more than one occasion that I've held hair back for somebody when they've gotten hammered. Now, here's one, and I'm not going to name names. Do you remember taking a friend of ours out for his 21st birthday and him getting so wrecked up? We get back to his apartment that he's renting with another friend of ours, also from back in the day. And we find him after a few minutes. He was going to go get cleaned up to head to bed because he's wrecked. And we found him in his bathtub with about 3 inches of water in the bathtub and nothing else. You don't remember this?
Vaguely.
Okay. You'll know. If I told you the name, you'd know, but I'm not going to out the.
No, let's not do that.
Out of the air. Yeah. And then you may not remember this. I do, because I wear contact lenses. I don't think you wear contacts, right?
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
I had to. This is how wrecked the dude was. For people who wear contacts, they'll know this. I had to take his contacts out for him because he couldn't find his eye over and over again. He'd be like, it won't come out. And he squeezed. And I'm like, all right, dude, this is going to be really bad. You've just got to stay still. I will get your contacts for you. And I did and put them in. And the next day, when we talked to him, because we left him there because we're like, I'm not sticking around for this nonsense. His roommate was there. It was fine. His roommate took care of him. His roommate and his then girlfriend, who is now his wife, as a matter of fact, they took care of him. And I just remember calling the next day and being like, are you good? Like, and he's like, yeah, but I don't remember taking my contacts out. I'm like, yeah, well, that's because you didn't. I took them out. I was like, I took care of that for you. So yeah, there's more than one occasion that again, my 21st birthday, I ended up not getting drunk because the guy that I went out with that was supposed to drive ended up getting hammered before I did. So I was like, well, one of us is going to drive the car home and you're not going to be the one to do it. So I stopped drinking on my 21st birthday at like 11 o'clock at night and sobered up till the bar closed. That was a great one because the bar that we went to all the time, we had both used fake IDs. He's a few months older than me. So he stopped using his fake ID I think his birthday's in February, maybe. So we get to it. And again, I've been using this fake ID with the same bouncer for like weeks. It was at the old, not the Black Rooster. It was back there in the alley. Oh, what was the name of that bar? They have one in Arlington too. Mr. Days. That's what it is.
Mr. Days.
You remember the old Mr. Days there in DC? It was right near the Black Rooster. It was right around the corner from the Black Rooster and everything else. We used to go to Mr. Days all the time. Knew the bartenders there. Of course, because we were going there all the time. They knew me as the name on my ID.
Oh.
So, because it was my fraternity brother's name. So I'd be going there for months. And then finally on my 21st birthday, I handed him the ID. The bouncer looks at it and he goes, oh, are you serious? I just started laughing. And he goes, that's pretty good. He goes, you've been coming here for a long time. He goes, that's pretty good. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm sorry. And he goes, go on in. He's like, it's great. Go on in. So we go in and again, know the bartenders. And we're like, hey, 21. She's like, what do you mean you're 21? You've been coming here for years. Like, I know. So, yeah. And then he got ripped up by like 11 o'clock. And she was like, so she's pouring us our next round. She's like, who's driving you guys, by the way? It's just you two. And I was like, well, yeah, it's just us two. And there's no Uber. There's no, none of that. And she goes, all right, well, really cool chick. She was like, I'm going to be honest. One of you needs to stop. She's like, I don't want, she was like, somebody's got to drive you guys home. And who's it going to be? And I looked at him and he had a big grin on his face. He was holding his cup. And I said, I guess I'm done. And she's like, yeah, probably a good choice. So my buddy ended up throwing up out of his passenger window of his own car as we drove down M Street going home that night on my 21st birthday. So, yeah, not great.
So my 21st, and you got to help me.
Yours is November, right?
Correct.
Yep.
So what was the sports bar in Merrifield? I think it was an old
Champions.
No, there was another one. It was run by a guy who was, I can't remember if he was a former player
in Merrifield.
Yeah, it was right at Gallows Road and Route 50.
Oh, that's yes, the former Bullet owned it. Oh my gosh, I can see. I know exactly what you're talking about. It is now something else. I think it might be a Five Guys. I
couldn't figure it out. But
yes, it's can't remember. Greavy's.
Thank you.
Yes, Kevin Greavy, the former Bullet. Yes, Greavy's. Great place. Buffalo Bills bar. I remember.
Okay. So it was down the road from where I lived at the time with my uncle.
Yeah, in India. Yeah, it's right down the road there. Yep.
He goes, well, what are we doing? I'm like, I didn't really plan anything because again, the 21 was just
nothing.
I've done my drinking at this point.
Exactly. Yep.
We're going to Greavy's. all right, let's do that. So it was just a couple beers, me and my uncle hanging out on my 21st birthday. Nothing crazy, nothing wild.
Perfect.
And that's what I remember. But going to Greavy's.
Yeah. Because your
right
birthday's right around Thanksgiving, right?
It's always around. It's Thanksgiving week, one end or the other. So,
Yep.
And I didn't turn 21 till, was I a senior? 92?
Yeah. 92, 93.
Yeah,
So
it was senior year of college before I turned 21 because I was sort of a year behind everybody. So, yeah, I was a senior in college turning 21 going, yep, all my best drinking's behind me. So
it's the truth.
Right?
It's definitely the truth.
It did get rejuvenated because hanging out with my uncle, there was another place in Annandale.
Sunset Grill.
The Sunset Grill. That was his place, and I would always end up there meeting him. And, that's where, my continual admiration for soccer moms happened because here I am 21, 22, and they're all in their 30s. It was a great time.
Yep.
But
I think it's still there.
No, it got destroyed.
Oh, is it gone?
They did a renewal like 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
It made me sad because I went to look it up and said, oh, it's gone. Because there were so many good memories from there, being young and everyone else being old and, being at this hole in the wall bar, people, let me tell you. If you had to look up in a dictionary, it was a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
But
no,
it was always
good
always
spot.
great times to be had there, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. It was a fun spot. I mean, I remember going up there with you on occasion when you'd go meet up with them. Like, that's the funny thing is, like, kids today would be like, why would you ever, like, it was fine. I like those type of places rather than the hoity-toity, wine bars or whatever. I'd rather go to a hole in the wall and just sit there and listen to people who have been around a hell of a lot longer than I have tell stories about stuff. It was the best.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's why I enjoyed it. It's Ralph and his buddies. I mean, you just hear these
buddies, right? Wasn't your uncle a bike rider?
Yeah, he loved motorcycles, had a lot of motorcycle. So you would hear these stories and, they're talking about when they were young and all the crazy stuff that they did, which, great stuff for movies of, they if it wasn't New Hampshire, it wasn't in New Hampshire, but talk about live free or die. I mean, him and these guys would be like, I remember when I was 18, I rode down to Texas, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
what?
They
just to do it. That's the world that they enjoyed. And, I try to push that on my son sometimes too. Like, just, you're young, go do it because you can. Right. So, but hearing those kind of stories at a place like that, is always amazing. And I think people miss out. They should, don't go to the hoity-toity places, kids.
Yeah, I should start hanging out at a dive bar around here and be that guy that's just in there telling stories to everybody. That's what I should start doing. I'm at that age now.
Yep.
Before we get out of here, and these were great, and I mean, we both have a million more stories from back in the day, but we don't have to get into them. I mean, again, there was drinking on I think you were gone by this point when we went up and had the barbecue on the top of Thompson Hall. Were you around for that? Or was
not.
That was me, Damon Scott, and Chris Nicholson.
Yes, I think it was a year after.
Yeah, had brought the charcoal in a backpack and a little tiny grill in the backpack and booze. And for Mason Day, we sat on top of Fenwick Library and cooked hot dogs and looked down on the quad. It was fantastic. That's another story for another time. But would be remiss, and I know you didn't necessarily watch the show, but this one, we talk about celebrity deaths all the time. This one was a little eerie and too close for comfort for me. James Vanderbeek passed away yesterday, or we heard about it yesterday. I think he passed away maybe the day before, as we record this. And the show that he was on, Dawson's Creek, is not a Gen X show. Maybe people will argue that, but we were already close to 30 years old. And some Gen Xers were already in their 30s when this show came out. So it's not our show. This was not our coming of age show as it would be for millennials who were the oldest of them were 17 at the time. So not necessarily a thing. I guess there'd be some Gen Xers that the youngest ones, maybe you would look at it and say it's your show, but it's more Gen X adjacent millennial, I would say. But he was 48. And he also did not only Dawson's Creek, he was also in Varsity Blues, which is one of the best, worst high school football movies ever. And I mean that unlike the acting is not great, but it's still a fantastic movie. His famous "I do not want your life" when he's trying to do his Texas football accent. It's not great. It's a very Porky's light type of movie in that regard. Is they have the teacher that they find is working at the strip club out on the other side of town and that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's good, but I saw a picture yesterday that somebody had put up of the main characters that were in that movie. Of course, Vanderbeek was Moxie. You had Tweeter, who was the wide receiver. Paul Walker's character, I can't remember the name now, who was the starting quarterback. He got hurt. That's the whole thing of Mox taking over. He didn't want to be playing football. He wanted to go to an Ivy League school and everything. And then Billy Bob, who was the offensive lineman, the big fat guy that everybody picked on, and he has a breakdown in the movie about it. 3 of those 4 are now no longer with us. So Billy Bob died years ago. Of course, we know Paul Walker died in the car accident, and now Vanderbeek. And Vanderbeek's one really hit home because he had the same cancer that I did. And you at times just look at it and go, well, why didn't he make it? Or why did I make it? And that was my whole thing yesterday and reading all this stuff. Like Katie Holmes put out this great thing. She was his co-star in Dawson's Creek. He's got 6 kids, man.
Yep.
Wife and 6 kids. And they're beautiful kids. I followed him on Instagram and social media stuff. And he talks about his kids all the time. And I mean, it was just like, how does this guy who had so much going on that needed to be around isn't around anymore? It's wild because he was 48. He was one of us. He was a younger Gen X, but he was Gen X. It was tough. Yesterday was, and I don't get upset about celebrities dying. I think it was more about my own thing of looking at it and being like, oh, here's your mortality staring you in the face. This is a guy that probably could have had every single type of treatment that was out there, still didn't make it. And it's scary.
Well, I mean, I've said this to you before. God has blessed you because I see a lot in what I do. And for various reasons, I've had the story of, hey, I didn't feel good. Everything's been fine. I didn't feel good. Go to the doctor next day. It's like, oh, you have a terminal diagnosis. So it just happens and there's no happenstance. So, like I said, what your case, your scenario, what a blessing, because I know you went through some things to get through it and you survived and you're with us today and we're doing the show and, there's a plan for everything. And I guess your plan was to do this show. That's it.
I don't know if that was the ultimate plan. Somebody might want to rethink it and come up with something else. So I don't know, but yeah, it was just, I think about that all the time because there are so many people that you look at and you see that don't get through whatever it is they're getting through, whether it's colon cancer like James Vanderbeek or other things. And you just go like, why didn't it work for them? Like, why did they not get through this? And there's no rhyme or reason for it. But I would recommend if you are a James Vanderbeek fan or Dawson's Creek fan, or even if you aren't, go search out on his Instagram. It's still up. His wife has posted a couple things, but he had a video, probably a year ago when he first had his diagnosis done. And he talked about like being, a celebrity and a star. And he kind of defined himself as an actor originally. And then he got married. So then it was defining himself as a husband. And then he had kids. And so then his defining thing was being a dad. But he talks about like, it was just a nice message of like loving other people and why you're here for the short amount of time that you're here and everything. It was really profound when this day and age, when you see actors and actresses and people like that trying to portray this message and you just know that it's ringing hollow and they're trying to do it because people will hit that little heart button and like it. This was not that. This was a guy who I don't know if he was scared or not because I didn't know him, obviously. But this is a guy that was speaking not as an actor putting on a face. This was a guy that was staring down like, I'm not sure what's going on here. And I'm not sure how long I'm going to be around. So I need to get this stuff out before I'm not around anymore. It was pretty heavy.
Yep. I mean, I will say I am sometimes numb to these things because I deal with it, and you wouldn't think Southern Maine, but I deal with it constantly. What I see, what I go through, see what other people go through. Something comes out of left field. The big one I remember one time was, quick scenario. Poor gentleman died. Why? Because he was at work at his paving company. And as the dump truck was backing up with the dumpster raised, he had his hand on the rail walking with it, and no one saw the power line. And it just comes out, like I said, left field. And maybe it's better that he didn't see it coming versus, the situation where he got the diagnosis and this is what we got to deal with. You take advantage of your time and think about things. That's why I tell my son and the stepkids a lot of, you don't understand because you're so young and, you feel immortal and you don't think about these things. But being on the other end of it, I see it at work. What you went through, you take those moments and go, stop and think, enjoy the world, embrace it for all it is, because we're not here very long if you just look at it from that perspective. It feels like it when you're 20, not when you're our age.
Yeah, no, I mean it, and I look back and think about stuff like how fast things have gone, and you just realize, like, wow. I mean, I wish I had done this. I wish I did that. Not that there's any regrets, because you end up where you're supposed to end up. I firmly believe that. So I don't have any regrets about what I did or didn't do. But you go, you know what? If this is something that you want to do, you should do it. Like you should, like if there's a place that you want to go visit it. If there's something that you want to try it while you're young, because you may not have the opportunities as you get older, or it may slip by you and you never got a chance to do it. So, but not to end on a heavy note. So I got to ask you one more thing about it being 21. So we won't end on a downer at all. First off, we're this late in the show. If you haven't liked and subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. So you might as well go ahead and do that now. But do you remember, as being out the bar and you'd order a Corona, and of course you had to get it with a lime? Do you remember the process of being able to sink that lime? Were you a guy who sunk the lime, or did you just let it sit on top of the bottle and just drank it with it there? How did you do it?
Definitely a lime sinker.
Yes.
The little trick, the two tricks I was always told is you're going to take a sip off the bottle to reduce the volume inside a little bit. And then when you turned it back over, you just didn't fling your thumb off. You kind of moved it to the side to let the air escape so it didn't spew everywhere.
Right.
So
that was always a good trick for people who don't know. If you don't drink Corona, I'll do it with this, with the cap on, so I don't spill it over my laptop. That would be a disaster. You would get the bottle, they'd put the lime in, and you didn't want a big giant lime that you had to like smash in there. You want a little one, just drop in, it would float at the top. You would take your thumb and put it over the open, because obviously the cap is off. So you put your thumb over it and you would turn it upside down, and the lime would float to the top to get all the lime juice throughout the entire beer. And then when you put it back over, of course, it's a full beer, it would start to foam a little bit. So you either had the people who would do this and take that first sip, or if you were like Gary, a pro, you'd just be able to gently take your thumb off and maybe for effect have a little couple tiny bubbles spray up, and then you'd hand it to the chick that you bought the Corona for, and she would drink from the top of the bottle that you just had your nasty thumb on. And nobody thought anything about it.
Of course not.
Nobody cared.
Again, it's like passing the bottles. We didn't care back then.
Yeah.
No one cared.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You'd order Corona and you'd automatically, without even handing it to them, you'd be like, do you want me to sink? Do you want the lime sunk? You just leave it on top. And you would do it for the date or the girl, you just turn it over, turn it back, let it go, hand it to her.
Yeah.
You know, that was it.
Style points.
We did it.
It's all about the style. Let me take care of that for you.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how you did it. It was better than handing her a Bartles and James strawberry cooler or whatever it was. You know,
those two guys were cool. Those were funny commercials. I mean, they weren't even actors. So
yeah, no, the commercials were good. I mean, I think about it. We didn't get deep into it, but like they used dogs to sell us beer.
Yep, Spuds McKenzie.
Spud McKenzie. I had a poster of Spuds McKenzie on a surfboard, a Bud Light poster in my room when I was in high school. Like, what did I need that for? I wasn't drinking Bud Light, but Spud McKenzie was on a surfboard. You had the Stroh's commercials where Alex from Stroh's would go get the beer out of the fridge for his owner. It's a great commercial. They use dogs to sell us beer. I mean, it's no different than the cartoons. We can get into, the camels selling cigarettes and all that stuff. But it's just, I was just thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, the stuff that I remember about beer commercials were the dogs. Spuds McKenzie was the coolest thing around. All the chicks loved Spuds, and Alex would go get beers. It was great. So, anyway, we don't have to go down that long road. Do you have any final thoughts here before we call it a day and finish off our legal episode of the 21st Gen X-Men podcast?
In the words of Indiana Jones, it's not the years, it's the mileage.
This concludes this episode of Gen X-Men with Bill Rowland and Gary Dollarhite. Gen X-Men is now off the air.